Also want to give all of the praises and the glory to the Most High and the Son, Yahawah Bahasham Yahawashi Towards, and double honors to the Apostles of the Greatmillstone, and salutations to the Yakim out there that continue to further this ministry while the four corners of the earth, and shalom to those that are learning and listening and growing thereby as well. It's the brother Monica coming at you with another video, and this is the video that I was building on. So what I want to do with this video here is I want to get into something similar to what I was talking about yesterday, but this is going to be more balanced because I'm not going to just talk about the bad times that are coming. I'm also going to talk about, obviously, the good side of it all, is what Yahawah is going to do. He's going to bring balance, and that's the comforting aspect of it. It's like I was watching a video that the Apostle Gabar did, an older video. I think he probably did the video a week ago or so, or maybe a couple of weeks back. But I was watching it anyway, and you know, the Apostle was speaking on how the Heavenly Father is going to bring the bad times, which is written in the scriptures. That's the scriptures we read, which is written in the book of Amos, and as well as other precepts, and showing you that everything happens under the command of the Most High, Yahawah Bahasham Yahawashi, and through His Son. Okay, and it's going to be the Most High exactly that's going to bring these times forward, evils in the cities. And if we believe in His words, which we have no choice but to believe in His words, that we have the right state of mind, that through His words we'll be taken care of, we'll be stabilized in that time, and He will also pave the way for us to overcome the trials and tribulations. Because everything that's going to take place on this earth, which hasn't taken place yet, and things that have taken place before our time, it was all under the Lord Himself. All right, so we have no choice, again, as I'm going to say, but to simply trust in Him, the one that's going to do all the destroying and the one that's going to do the saving. It's best that we revert back to Him. All right, so what I want to do is I want to read the book of Acts 14, verse 22. So as it reads, confirming the souls of the disciples. Well, you know what, let me back up a little bit. I want to read verse 19. So we'll begin there. So as it reads, and there came thither certain Jews from Antioch and Iconium, who persuaded the people, and having stoned Paul, and drew him out of the city, supposing he had been dead. Howbeit, as the disciples stood round about him, he rose up and came into the city. And the next day he departed with Barnabas to Derbe. And when he had preached the gospel to that city, and had taught many, they returned again to Lystra, and to Iconium, and to Antioch. And I just want to just say this now, and just to say this anyway, because you got people out there that are coming into this truth, or have come across the videos that we record and we upload on YouTube. And I just want to put this out there. For one, we're the Hebrew Israelites, and we are a Hebrew Israelite sect, which we're called Greatmillstone, and what we teach is the complete truth of the scriptures. And a part of the truth is that you got to know that the so-called Jews today are not the biblical Jews. The biblical Jews are those that suffered the transatlantic slave trade. They're the people of the Jews, which is spoken of in the Bible, as I'm reading about right now. So I just wanted to just put that out there before I move forward into this topic. And this Bible, last couple of words, and I'm going to move back to the topic. This whole entire Bible is basically the history of those people, which are called so-called black people. And also, I can't just say so-called black people. I also have to include the so-called Latinos and Native American Indians, which they make up the Northern Kingdom. Okay, the so-called negroes of America, or which was taken to America, and as well as the people of the West Indian Islands, and as well as the Haitian people. All right. So the people of the Bible are those people. So now we're going to move forward, and we're going to read verse 20. Once again, howbeit as the disciples stood round about him, and he rose up and came into the city, and the next day he departed with Barnabas to Derbe, and when they had preached the gospel to that city, and had taught many, they returned again to Lystra, and to Iconium and Antioch, confirming the souls of the disciples, and exhorting them to continue in the faith, and that we must, through much tribulation, enter into the kingdom. So, for those that have just came across this video, this is going to go over your head. But for those that are new to the truth and that have learned of the truth for some time already, you should already understand that this is a thing such as reincarnation. And the disciples which was at the time following the Apostle Paul, and as well as the disciples which was following Yahawah, are all back here in these times doing the same thing that they were doing back then. What were the disciples known for? For preaching the ministry all around to the people which they were supposed to preach the ministry to. Okay? And that ministry was the ministry of Yahawah Bahasham Yahawashi, and that's what we're doing to this very moment in time, doing the same thing all over again. So as we read this, because really when you really think about it, the Bible itself is really a book which is already sanctioned for the elect to understand, rather than everybody else outside of the elect. And who am I talking about? The elect meaning the chosen souls of God out of the nation of Israel. And that's another thing too I have to put out there, of those that are just coming across this video with not knowing what we're all about. What we also teach is that the Heavenly Father also chose one nation, and that one nation is the nation of Israel, which I've already explained who the nation of Israel makes up. You have the so-called negroes in America, and as well as you have scattered all around in West Africa and other places, and then you have the West Indian brothers and sisters, and as well as you have the Haitian people, and then on down you have the so-called North American Indians, and the Seminole Indians of Florida, and as well as all of those indigenous Indians in South Central America. Those are the people that make up the 12 tribes of the nation of Israel. All right. So those are the only people that the Most High is concerned with. He's not concerned with any other nation. So anyway, confirming the souls of the disciples and exhorting them to continue in the faith, and that we must, through much tribulation, enter into the kingdom of the Most High. And that applies much more for now. That worldly tribulation, which is spoken of in the book of Revelation, the 3rd chapter, will come upon us all. And the tribulation has already, I wouldn't say the tribulation, but excuse me, I meant to say the temptation which is going to try the world. And that temptation is just begun. But the temptation is not intense. It's building up gradually. But it's going to intensify. And the powers all around the world, which are controlled by the banking elite, they're going to administer and mandate the MOTB. Okay? And if you don't know what that is, that's the Revelation 13 and 15 to 16. Okay? And it's technology that Esau is going to push all around the world and to mandate people worldwide to take the thing, to go forward in the new society that they're setting up, or should I say better yet, the new world order. Okay? So we're all going to be put to the test, and we're going to have to make the right decision. A lot of us are going to make the wrong decision because a lot of us don't. And I'm talking about those that are outside of the belief of Yahawashi. among our people. A lot of our people will be taken in derision because they don't believe in this ministry, which is the only ministry, which is the only truth which will save a soul. Okay, so because of that, they're going to be taken in great number, and it's going to be more of our people which will die than those which will be saved. Okay, and how we're going to be saved? We're going to be saved through the troubles which will come out of the times of this great tribulation period which we're coming up into. Okay, so that's all I gotta read on that. So I just want to get the book of Ezekiel, the 9th chapter. So anyway, Ezekiel 9 verse 1, he cried also in mine ears with a loud voice, saying, cause them that have charge over the city to draw near, even every man with his destroying weapon in his hand. And all of these men were nothing more than angels, destroying angels, which you'll find out as I read forward. And behold, 6 men from the way of the higher gate, which lieth towards the north, and every man a slaughter weapon in his hand. And one man among them was clothed with linen, with a writer's inkhorn by his side. And they went in and stood beside the brazen altar. And the glory of the Most High of Israel was gone up from the cherub whereupon he was to the threshold of the house. And he called to the man clothed with linen, which had the writer's inkhorn by his side. And the Lord said unto him, go through the midst of the city, through the midst of Jerusalem, and set a mark upon the forehead of the men that sigh and that cry, for all of the abominations that be done in the midst thereof. So when you look up that word mark, because you have men that are supposed to know better, they're equating this mark to the actual MOTB, which makes no sense. And this is really meaning an exemption from judgment. That's what this mark is. So the Hebrew word for this one is thawah. Okay, thawah, which means to mark as a sign of exemption from judgment. So as it reads in Ezekiel, let's read this again. And the Lord said unto him, go through the midst of the city, through the midst of Jerusalem, and set a mark upon the foreheads of the men that sigh and that cry, for all of the abominations that be done in the midst thereof. So this is not talking about the MOTB in Revelations 15 and 16. This has nothing to do with that. This is a totally different time period for it to mean the same thing. Like, come on, man. Now, because we have this truth and we have the name of the Lord written on our foreheads, that's the mark, or equivalent to the mark in the book of Ezekiel, the 9th chapter, which is the thawah, the exemption from judgment. So as Yahawah told us in the book of Revelations, if we hold on to his words, so we're going to get Revelations 3. Yeah, this is it right here. Revelations 3 verse 10. Because thou hast kept the word of my patience, I also will keep thee from the hour of temptation, which shall come upon all of the world to try them that dwell upon the earth. So if we keep his word, then we're going to be kept from the hour of temptation. It's just that simple. But if we let go of the world, then the Heavenly Father is going to let go of us. So in that time, when we hold on to this understanding, which is going to make us wise, which is actually made us wise unto our salvation, we're going to be saved. So this truth is equivalent to the thawah mark, which I just read in the book of Ezekiel, the 9th chapter. So let's move forward and we're going to read some more. And to the others he said, in mine hearing, go ye after him through the city and smite. Let not your eyes spare. And here's the point. Neither have ye pity. Slay utterly old and young, both maids, in other words, young women, and little children, and women. But come not near any man upon whom is the mark, and begin at my sanctuary. Then they begin at the ancient men, which were before the house. So when you read the scriptures, as you do, you have to take your emotions out of the equation. Because see, we were brought up in the Western world, and we've been conditioned to think upon women as a group of people or a gender which is void of judgment. No, women are going to be judged severely in this time, according to the deeds that they have done. Everybody's going to be judged, whether you're a grown-ass man to a young girl that's like 17, 18 years old. All will come under the judgment of Yahawah Bahasham Yahawashi. It doesn't matter what age you are. If you're old enough to partake in the judgment, you will partake in the judgment. And as well as even children are going to die in these times. When the powers that be unleash the wrath, which will be pushed upon the people, which the Lord is going to basically be behind that, everybody's going to be under some form of judgment. Okay? And that's what the reality is going to be. So just like during the time of Ezekiel, when Ezekiel had been given the vision of the angels slaying old and young, and both maids, as it reads, little children and women, right? That's going to happen again. You're going to have certain men out there that's going to be possessed by the spirit of Satan, which is going to be the left-hand side of the Most High. And I'm talking about the powers, whether they're going to be the military, or whether they're going to be the SWAT team forces, or whether they're just going to be the police with extra armory on them. And they're going to go for the gusto of just slaying, killing people. All right? And I'm talking about in this society. The powers that be are going to go against the people. In other words, in the time of martial law, when society breaks down. And in that time, a lot of our people will be put to death. A lot of our people will be gunned down. I mean, if you think that our people are going through trouble with the police, you ain't seen nothing yet. The troubles that our people go through is going to be on steroids. So that's going to be a part of the tribulation, which we're going to have to survive through. But yet and still, we must continue in the faith, holding on to the words of Yahawah Bahasham Yahawashi, because that's a part of what's written in our faith, is that these things are going to happen. And it's going to seem like the Heavenly Father is going to do away with all of his people. And as it is written in the book of Zechariah 13, that 2 parts therein shall be cut off and die. And that's what you call 66.6% of our people. And what our people are going to do to bring this death upon them, okay, as it is written in the book of the Apocrypha, they that consent unto them will be had in the vision. So all it's going to have to take is for the majority of our people to take the MOTB, to be exact. Once they take that MOTB, then they're going to be put to death right then and there. Whether the Most High is going to sanction Esau to put them to death, whether the missiles are going to put them to death, or whether the Lord himself is going to put them to death. Okay? So it's going to seem like the Lord is going to come down on the rest of his people. It's going to seem like the Lord is going to destroy all of his people, and that you may very well be next. That's how scary it's going to come. Okay, so let's continue to read some more. It says, and he said unto them, defile the house and fill the course with the slain. Go ye forth. And they went forth and slew the city. So when the Most High gave command to the angels, they did what was commanded of them. And what did they do? They slayed all of those people that wasn't right. And those that had the mark of exemption from judgment, those that sighed and cried for the abominations thereof, they were spared. So that's how it's going to be in these times. The elect, which have not gone along with the world, which hated the world, their lives are going to be spared. The angels didn't think to themselves, oh, we're going to be slaying young women. We're going to be slaying little children. We're going to be slaying old men. No, they went and did their job without even having to think about doing it. All right? So a scenario equivalent to this is coming. When these troops come down against our people, they're going to come down slaying, killing, no mercy. And guess who's going to be behind it? Yet the Most High is going to be behind it. Because they have forsaken the way. Anybody that didn't have that mark upon them, which was the Yahawah mark, the exemption from judgment mark, they were put to death. And guess what? It's going to be the same way in these times. The difference is that the angels of death are going to be behind these military forces that are going to come down against our people. Because a time is coming, such as martial law, and in that time, which martial just simply means warlike law. So in that hour of war, which the powers that be will wage war against the people, but more in particular, they're going to be gunning towards our people. Why? Because our people are in the way of the new world order system, which is what they're setting up. So if they're looking to set up a world which is going to be completely governed by Satan, they need to get the sons of God out of the way. That's just the thing. They got to get the people of God out of the way. And that's how they're going to complete, as they think to believe, their new world order. And the thing that I'm talking about are the banking elite, which they're spearheading this civilization by controlling all of these puppets that they set in positions of leadership all around these different countries. Anyway, so let's read on some more. It says, "And it came to pass while they were slaying them, and I was left, that I fell upon my face and cried and said, Ah, Lord Power, wilt thou destroy all of the residue of Israel, and thy pouring out of thy fury upon Jerusalem?" You see, so again, that's how it's going to seem like. It's going to seem like the Lord is going to get rid of his whole entire people. It's going to seem like, man, the Most High is just letting this thing go through, and that there's no mercy. But there will be mercy. Mercy unto those that haven't forsaken his word. You see, that's the difference. So this scenario is going to play out again. But it's going to be a little bit different, because the angels ain't going to be doing the slaying. It's going to be men that's going to be guided by the spirits of Satan that's going to be doing all of the killing. And you can even read that in the book of Ezekiel 21. How the sword is given into the hand of the slayer. And the ultimate slayer is Esau. And Esau, that's his blessing. His blessing is the sword. So he's going to maximize on the sword, which is, he's already done it already. They've already trained on how they're going to approach the regular citizens of the world, especially more in particular in the Western Hemisphere. Like the cities of America, the cities down here in the UK. People are going to get the business from the powers that are under these people. And these people are not going to have no choice but to cow down. Okay, well, they're going to be doing more than cow down. They're going to be put to death. They're going to be laid out. So, I mean, these are the times we're coming into. And in that time, like I said, it's going to seem like the Lord is going to get rid of the whole entire nation. But the Lord ain't going to get rid of his people entirely. He's just going to get rid of those that are perverted and that didn't want to recognize his men, which is really himself, because we are the ambassadors, the representatives of the Lord. So when our people denounce what we tell them, they're really denouncing the Lord. Ezekiel 9 verse 10. "And as for me also, mine eye shall not spare, neither will I have pity, but I will recompense their ways upon their head. And behold, the man clothed with linen, which had the inkhorn by his side, reported the matter, saying, I have done, thou hast commanded me." So the angel didn't feel bad about what they did. They simply went back to the Heavenly Father and they reported the matter, and it was done. And certain men are going to be guided by the left-hand side of the Most High to get the job done by getting rid of the 2/3 of our own people. And we're all going to be a witness to that. And that's going to be a part of our tribulation as well. So a lot of things are going to happen. Families are going to take place. Martial law is going to take place. All of these things that men have went through before, all of these things are going to come back much more and greater, as it is written in the book of Daniel 12, right? Let's pull that up. Let's get the book of Daniel 12. So as it reads, and at that time shall Michael stand up, the great prince which standeth for the children of thy people. And there shall be a time of trouble, such as never was since there was a nation, even to that same time, and at that time thy people shall be delivered, and every one that shall be found written in the book. So when the times of troubles come around in this day and age, it's going to be severe. More severe than the times of troubles of the past. Like we could talk about the siege of the Assyrians, the siege of the Israelites with the Assyrians, and also the siege which took place with the Romans around 67 to 70 AD during the time of Messiah. We could talk about all of that. But guess what? These times of trouble which is forth to come, man, it is not going to compare. So that's all I want to read for that. And that's the time of Jacob's trouble. So let's move forward, and we're going to get the book of Isaiah chapter 10. And check this out too. When I read Daniel's chapter 12 verse 1, it also said that even in that time, that deliverance is going to come. So yeah, times are going to be very bad and dreadful, but who's going to be delivered? The elect of the nation of Israel is going to be delivered. Those that are sighing and crying for the abominations that be done in the midst of earth today. Isaiah 10 verse 5. O Assyrian, the rod of mine anger, and the staff in their hand is mine indignation, and I will send him against an hypocritical nation, and against the people of my wrath will I give him a charge to take the spoil, and to take the prey, and to tread them down like the mire of the streets. So the same way the king of Assyria came up against the children of Israel in a much more threatening way, brutal way, by the way, if you go into the history, that's how Esau is coming up against our people. The 2/3 of them. Even Yahawah said it as well in the book of Luke 21. Same thing that happened during the time of, or should I say after Yahawah, around 35 to 40 years after Yahawah. During the time of Messiah, you had the Romans, which came down, which was ordered by Vespasian, and it was done by his two sons, Titus and Domitian, if I'm correct, to take down or to put an end to Jerusalem. So that's what Yahawah was prophesying about, and that's the event that occurred and took place. So this event that happened in the past, again, this scenario is going to play out, and this time our people are not going to have nowhere to go as they did at the time, where you only had 1 million of them fled into the different parts of the earth, some fleeing into North Africa, some fleeing predominantly, not some, but most of them predominantly went into West Africa, and they went to the other parts of the earth. All right, but in these times, as I'm going to say it again, they're not going to know where to go. There's not going to be nowhere else to go. So as it reads, it says, when you see Jerusalem compassed with armies, then know that the desolation thereof is nigh. And where Jake is at in these ghettos, those ghettos are going to be concentrated by those military forces to control that part of the city. Probably in these schools, definitely in these different concentration camps, which they're going to be putting people in. And as well as ourselves being compassed with the military powers as well. Plus, we're going to be involved in all of this melee, which would be brought to pass as it is written. So when we see all of this stuff, then we're going to know that the Lord is nigh. And as well as the complete desolation of this civilization is nigh as well. Because Esau is going to be thinking to themselves, oh, we're just now starting to really get the upper hand in setting up this one world system. We're almost done. And in a sense, they're kind of correct, but not correct in the sense of what they think And what I'm saying is they're going to be correct in setting up the real New World Order, which is written in the scriptures. And that New World Order is going to begin with the saints ruling, as it is written in the book of 2nd Ezra 16. Excuse me, 2nd Ezra, the 6th chapter, where it says that Esau is the end of the world and Jacob is the beginning of it that followeth. That's the New World Order, which is coming forward after this civilization, this world. So now let's go and get Amos, the 9th chapter. Amos 9 and 8. Behold, the eyes of the Lord power upon the sinful kingdom, and I will destroy from off the face of the earth, saving that I will not utterly destroy the house of Jacob, saith the Lord. Why? Because the remnant will return back to him by taking heed thereby to his word, administering his word, and by his word will they be saved in the hour of temptation as well as the time of Jacob's trouble. Okay? Now, all of this applied to our people at the time, which was considered a sinful kingdom because our people were going contrary to the ways of the commandments. So that's how they became the sinful kingdom. But more in particular, this sinful kingdom, which is America, which is the main place of our deliverance and also the main place of our of the destruction, which is fourth to come. Okay, that's the sinful kingdom who the eyes of the Lord is upon, and that eventually this place will be destroyed from off the face of the earth. And you can read that in the book of Isaiah 34, which Isaiah 34 talks about this particular place or empire being known as Babylon, which originally it's old daughter of Babylon, which will be destroyed in the book of Revelations. So this is the empire which is the greatest of them all today, because you have kingdoms among these other nations, but the greater kingdom is America today. Now, America may not be the most powerfulest kingdom, but it's the most influential, because the real power of this civilization is by the men of Great Britain, beginning with the Rothschild family and stuff like that, you know, which originally they're from Germany, their family, but you know, they dominate through England. The power of the civilization comes through England, but the most influential is America, and that's what makes Babylon the Great, which is what we call it, a greater empire, in the sense of how it's influenced the minds of many people. Okay, when you can read that in the book of Revelation, the 17th chapter, how many nations have committed fornication with this woman. And this woman is known as what? O daughter of Babylon, as I'm going to say again. So anyway, enough of that. So now we're going to move forward. Let's read verse 9. And for lo, I will command, and I will sift the house of Israel among all nations, like as corn is sifted in the sieve, and yet shall not the least of the grain fall upon the earth. So there's going to come a time of a great shaking, and that great shaking is going to be the time of that tribulation, which is what the Apostle Paul spoke or exhorting the disciples in that regard, that this is what they're going to have to go through, and that they heed to the faith, and that's the elect. Jeremiah 30 verse 7. Alas, for that day is great, so that none is like it. It is even the time of Jacob's trouble, but he shall be saved out of it. Going back to the book of Amos 9 verse 8. Behold, the eyes of the Lord powers upon a sinful kingdom, and I will destroy from off the face of the earth, saving that I will not utterly destroy the house of Jacob, saith the Lord. Why? Because in the time of Jacob's trouble, they will be deliverance. At last, let's read this again. At last, for that day is great, so that none is like it. It is even the time of Jacob's trouble, but he shall be saved out of it. For it shall come to pass in that day, saith the Lord of hosts, that I will break his yoke from off thy neck, and I will burst thy bonds, and strangers shall no more serve themselves of him, but they shall serve the Lord their power, and David their king, whom I will raise up unto them. So this is it. We have to go through these times to get on the other side. And we welcome Esau bringing in these times. And really, it's going to be the Lord that's going to set Esau up to lose everything. Because right when Esau thinks that they got this shit in the bag, they're going to lose everything. And we're going to get to them scriptures as well. Revelations 2 verse 10. Failing of those things which thou shalt suffer, behold, the devil shall cast some of you into prison, that you may be tried, and ye shall have tribulation 10 days, and be thou faithful unto death, and I will give thee a crown of life. So in this time of Jacob's trouble, like I said, you're going to have a lot of things going on. You're going to have our people being rounded up, concentrated in these ghettos, famines, people fighting up against their government, vice versa, people getting gunned down like nothing. And also, the ones of us are going to have to experience being put into prisons, concentration camps, have you will, because we're not going with what the world is telling us to do in that time, which obviously not the world per se, but as well as the powers that be. I'll say rather this, the world of the powers that be, which they're going to declare the military to be put on the streets, and the military are going to have all authority, and they're going to be pretty much demanding people to do what it is that they're told to do. Okay? And that's taking the thing, and as well as more and particularly taking the MOTB. Okay? So we're to be faithful unto death, so that we can receive our reward in heaven, a crown of life, and eventually so that we can be kings on the earth in the kingdom of heaven. Lamentations 4 verse 21. Rejoice and be glad, O daughter of Edom, that dwellest in the land of Uz, and the cup also shall pass through unto thee, and thou shalt be drunken, and thou shalt make thyself naked. The punishment of thine iniquity is accomplished, O daughter of Zion, and he will no more carry thee away into captivity, and he will visit thine iniquity, O daughter of Edom, and he will discover thy sins. So when we go through, after we go through Jacob's trouble, we triumph over Jacob's trouble, there's not going to be no more captivity after this one. There's not going to be no more cursing. None of what we've experienced in the old world, as it reads in the book of Isaiah 66, as the Lord said through, I believe it's Isaiah it is, as I've quoted Isaiah 66, how the Lord will create a new heavens and a new earth, and in that new heavens and a new earth, the Lord will make Jerusalem a rejoicing people, with all the things that offended the nation. All right, and we're going to be situated in peace forever and ever. That's what the Lord is setting up. And guess what else is going to happen? Now the Lord is going to visit the iniquity of the nation of Edom, and we're going to get into it. Okay, so let me finish this. He will no more carry thee away into captivity, and he will visit thine iniquity, O daughter of Edom, and he will discover thy sins. So the first sin that comes to my mind, which I have on deck, the scripture, is the fact that Esau came as a thief and stole. What did he steal? He stole us, and was still found in his hand. And there's a commandment on that. If a servant be found in your hand after the 7-year period, he to be put to death, if that servant is still found in his hand. And we, the servants under Esau, are found under Esau right now, and we're in his hands. So what is the Lord going to do? The Lord is going to put him to death. That's one law that they've broken. Because there's nothing wrong with being in slavery. Like, slavery is going on right now. When you work for a company, or when you work for whoever you work for, and that somebody's paying your wages, you're his servant. So there's nothing wrong with it. So it's the way it was done back in the ancient world. And back in the ancient world, during the time of the children of Israel, what they would do is they would take the younger men, because the younger men would start getting into the workforce at the age of probably, like, let's just say 12 or 13, and then they will stop working probably at the age of 19. And by that time, they would be released. And then the guy that he worked for would then pay him enough money to get his own foundation set up his own businesses so that he can take care of his own and provide for his own. That's how you would do it. But what Esau did, Esau pretty much kept us in servitude for 400 or 500 years. So what's the judgment going to be? The judgment is going to be that he be put to death, being that the servants that he should have released are still found in his hand today. Because you got to remember, Esau, not only did Esau steal us from one part of the earth and transported us to the new world, as what they call it at the time, took us against our will and we served slavery, but they also took what belonged to us too. They took our gold, they took our resources. They destroyed what we had. And not only did they destroy what we had, but they also stole what we had as well. Because we had civilizations of our own. We had gold, we had silver, we had things that, make a nation stand upright. So what are they going to have to do? They're going to have to pay double. Because the Lord Yahawah Yahawashi sees the ultimate thief, and it's Esau. So being that he's been found, now he has to pay double for the things that he has done. Especially more in particular, the goods that he has stolen, including us, on how he was stolen as slaves. All right, we weren't stolen as slaves. We were stolen to be put as slaves. Let me put it that way better. Exodus 22 verse 7, if a man shall deliver unto his neighbor money or stuff to keep, let's go back. All right, let me read this then. If a man shall deliver unto his neighbor money or stuff to keep, and it be stolen out of a man's house, if the thief be found, let him pay double. If the thief be not found, then the master of the house shall be brought unto the judges, and to see whether he have put his hand unto his neighbor's good. For all manner of trespass, whether it be for ox, for ass, for sheep, for raiment, for any manner of lost thing which another challengeth to be his, the cause both parties shall come before the judges, and whom the judge shall condemn, he shall pay double unto his neighbor. Exactly. So Esau's going to pay double unto his neighbor. And yes, we are brothers. Jacob and Esau are brothers. Jacob is the descendant of the 12 tribes, which makes up the so-called Latinos and Native American Indians, and as well as Esau is the father of the so-called white people today. So technically we're in a relation. You can call us neighbors, which the term neighbor just simply means your brother. But what did Esau do? Esau stole from us. So now, everything that they've stolen, they have to give it back. That's the law right there. And I just read the law in that. So now let's furthermore so read Job 20 verse, we're going to begin by reading verse 15. He hath swallowed down riches, and he shall vomit them up again. And the Most High shall cast them out of his belly, and he shall suck the poison of asps. Viper's tongue shall slay him, and he shall not see the rivers, the floods, and the brooks of honey and the butter. So they're not going to see their enterprise in full action. In other words, their new world order. That's not going to happen. Which the new world order, when you think about it, the Great Reset, which is what they want to set up, is basically the kingdom of heaven for the very few, which obviously the banking elite are part of that, and even the dominions who they have in positions of power. So they're basically going to formulate a kingdom on earth for themselves, but that's not really going to be the case. They're going to lose everything that they've stolen and that they've gotten by ill dealing anyway. Verse 18, and that which he labored for shall he restore, and he shall not swallow it down. According to his substance shall the restitution be, and he shall not rejoice therein, because he have oppressed and have forsaken the poor, because he had violently taken away an house which he builded not. So what did these Edomites do? They took over Spain, they took over England, they took over France, they took over all of these different regions where we dwelled. They took over Australia, which the original people of Australia are those so-called Aborigines, which descend from the man by the name of Japhet. And ultimately, they stole the Americas. Now, if you look in the Americas, and let's just deal with South Central America. Now, the people that are there don't actually govern that part of the land. You know who governs that part of the land? The Spaniards, the conquistadors. So the governments of Chile, the governments of Venezuela, all of these governments in South Central America, okay, these very prominent heads, these politicians, they've all somehow, some way descended from Spain. In other words, they descend from the Spaniard Edomites. That's who's really running the government, or the governments in these different areas of South Central America, and as well as North America too. Even though the so-called North American Indians and the Seminoles, that's supposed to be their land, North America. Who owns North America? So-called white people own North America, Edomites, because they've stole all of these areas for themselves. So everything that they've taken, everything that they've stolen, they're going to have to eventually give all of that back. Because really, when you really think about it, their empire was based on violence and just being a thief. They built their empire by stealing and shedding blood. So as the law has it in the book of Exodus 22, on how they're going to have to restore the goods which they have stolen, as it is written in the book of Job 20 and verse 18. Let's read this again, shall we? That which he labored for shall he restore, and shall not swallow it down. According to his substance shall the restitution be, and he shall not rejoice therein. So in other words, Esau is going to lose everything. Everything they're going to lose, including the lands of that which of what they've stolen. Let's read on down. Surely he shall not feel quietness in his belly, and he shall not save of that which he desired. And there shall none of his meat be left. Therefore shall no man look for his goods. In the fullness of his sufficiency he shall be in straits, and every hand of the wicked shall come upon him. Now the term wicked right here is not referring to the actual wicked. Let's look up this word. The word is amal, which means laborers. Exactly. Laborers, sufferers, wretched ones, laborers, workmen, suffer. Who are the laborers and the sufferers and the wretched ones? We are. So according to the prophecy, as it is written in the book of Genesis 49, and their hands are going to touch the necks of their enemies. Okay? So where was I at? I was in verse 22. In the fullness of his sufficiency he shall not be in straits. He shall be in straits, and every hand of the wicked shall come upon him. In other words, we're going to come upon him, as I've already explained. Moving forward, verse 23. And when he is about to fill his belly, the Most High shall cast the fury of his wrath upon him, and shall rain it upon him while he is eating. So right exactly when they're about to get their one world order in full activation, that's when the Most High is going to put a stop to it. And guess what else is going to come afterwards? The nuclear missiles, which is going to annihilate all of, which is what they've set up, and all of these worlds, which is what they control, and even including all of these other nations. The Lord is going to put an end to the nation of Edom, and as well as all of these other nations that are under the Edomites. And what I mean by put an end to these nations, I'm talking about their empires. Because these nations are still going to be around, but they're just going to be our slaves after all of the dust is settled and cleared. And after Jacob's trouble as well. He shall flee from the iron weapon, and the bow of steel shall strike him through. What is this iron weapon, I say? It's the missile, the nuclear missile. Job 20 verse 25. It is drawn and it's come out of the body. Yea, the glittering sword cometh out of his gall, and terrors upon him. And all darkness shall be hid in his secret places. A fire not blown shall consume him. and it shall go ill with him that is left in his tabernacle. And what that means, as it reads, a fire blown, you don't have to go behind the missile and to propel the missile by putting a flame to it. The thrust alone will propel the missile. All you got to do, if you're in the military and in the military base, you press that button and those missiles propel up into the air. So it's going to come a time where those buttons are going to be pressed and those missiles are going to go where they need to go and strike the cities. And the Lord is going to be behind all of this. Pursuant to the book of Joel, the 2nd chapter. Job 20, verse 27. The heavens shall reveal his iniquity, and the earth shall rise up against him. That's happening right about now. And the increase of his house shall depart, and his goods shall flow away in the day of his wrath. And this is the portion, and we also got to very well include the incoming of the Messiah, which the Messiah is going to totally add insult into injury and also annihilate this world as well. All right? All you got to do is also read Isaiah 63. I might as well read that. I could just end it off just by reading that precept. Job 20, verse 29. This is the portion of a wicked man from the Most High, and the heritage appointed unto him by the Most High. So this is the thing. See, when they're about to get their new world order in order, Esau is going to lose everything. And we're going to have so much to gain. Now let me just finalize it with this scripture here. Isaiah 63. Verse 1. Who is this that cometh from Edom, with dyed garments from Basra? This that is glorious in his apparel, traveling in the greatness of his strength. I that speak in righteousness, mighty to save. And wherefore art thou red in thine apparel, and thy garments like him that treadeth in the wine fat? I have trodden the winepress alone, and the people there were none with me. For I will tread them in mine anger, tremble them in my fury, and their blood shall be sprinkled upon my garments, and I will stain all my raiment. For the day of vengeance is in my heart, and the year of my redeemed is come. And I looked, and there was none to help. Well, you know what? I don't even have to go there. Let's just stop at verse 4. The day of the Lord's vengeance is in his heart, and also the year of his redeemed is going to come. And guess what? The Lord is going to come through and also save and deliver. Because Yahawah is going to have mercy upon the elect. In that time, he's going to have to. Because then there'll be no flesh to be saved. So Yahawah is going to come and destroy this whole entire empire. So we have to go through all of this melee, which is forth to come. But as we're coming closer and closer, and as well as Esau believes that they're just about to get this shit in the bag, is when they're about to lose absolutely everything, which is what they've gained and stolen by thievery. So anyway, I rest my case. And with that, I say shalom.